All right. All right. I'd like to start off by saying Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Ruchakodash. Welcome to another live lesson.
All right.
The name of this one is called The Iron Weapon and the Three Woes. And the reason why I paused at the beginning of the video was because I was reading the message on the Hangout on Air is live. Then underneath it says Hangouts on Air is going away later this year. For quick streaming, try youtube.com webcam. So now I guess, you know, you're going to be, or we're going to be at this devil's mercy, you know, to pretty much film when we want to go live. So, excuse me. I don't know what this whole thing is about. I'm gonna have to research it because right now I have a program called Minicam, and I have my own camera that I stream off of, you know, the webcam, and going. Everything is just pretty much what Esau is doing is just pretty much cramping everything together so that they control it. They can control everything. This is why, you know, Google pretty much took over every damn thing. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Google owns YouTube. So, you know, these so-called, or these gutter rats will say it like that because, you know how these devils get down. You know, they're just pretty much centralizing everything. But anyway, the name of this one is The Iron Weapon and the Three Woes. And this is something that I've been thinking about, you know, just kind of meditating off and on from time to time. And through the Spirit, I did a lesson on this based off of what Elder Apostle Tar had mentioned before, dealing with the Revelation chapter 9. So we're going to revisit that. And but what I want to do in that, there's a point in there that through the Spirit, if the Lord allows, want to accentuate, you know, or centralize that, you know, in a righteous way, not in a centralizing in a wicked way. You know, just to shed some light on this one particular part of the scripture. You know, I had ran across some videos, which I'm gonna have to pull up because I didn't get a chance to pull them up. But let's see if I can, as the intro is going, you know, I could pull some of these videos up because they were very good videos that show the point, you know, of the or the significance of this lesson and the point that I want to highlight, you know, through the Spirit. So let me just grab up. It's like 3 videos. Let me just grab them up real quick, and then and then we'll get started. Just bear with me one more second. There was 3 videos that I was thinking of, you know, that I ran across this morning, you know, while I was watching. I forget whose video I was watching, but this just came into my. No, I was listening to the Bible. That's what it was, and I was listening to Joel, the 2nd chapter, actually Joel 1 and 2, and then this came back to mind. You know, this point in the book of Revelation, the 9th chapter. Okay, so without further ado, let's get to it. Let me just click over here. And this is dealing with these the current positions that we find ourselves in the world today, of all of these wars and the culmination of all these wars, because what we're going to read about now took place in the 1900s and is going to, and the final part of it is going to take place in the 2000s, you know, which we're in 2019, the year of Charagma. So this is Revelation 8 and 13. It says, "And I beheld and heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth, So it says, woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth, by reason of the other voices of the trumpet of the three angels which are yet to sound. Now, what is woe? What does woe represent? When somebody says woe is me, they're in a position of what's the word I'm looking for? Despair. Okay, and this position of despair equals these major world wars that would cause the apostle John, or Shalaki, that would cause the angel to say this: woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth. Why? Because this instance that's going to take place is going to take place on the earth by reason of the other voices of the trumpet of the three angels which are yet to sound. Now the trumpet represents what? An alarm of war. We could read about that in the book of Jeremiah, the 4th chapter, right? But it says the three angels which are yet to sound. And there was a sounding of these woes that some of them took place already. Let's go from there to the book of Revelation 9 and 12. It says, one woe is past, and behold, there come two woes more hereafter. So now what is this talking about? Let's look up this word woes real quick. What is this woe talking about?
Strong's G 3759. Uai. Uai.
That's like a clamor. And right here, primary exclamation of grief. So it says, alas, woe. So this is the right here, a primary exclamation of grief. So this is a grief. So what are these griefs that it's speaking about? It's speaking about war. But it's not just speaking about any old war. It's speaking about world wars, because when these nations get together, they cause a tumult. And not only do they cause a tumult, this devastation affects the people that are around them. You know, civilians, which if they kill any civilians, they're called collateral damage, you know, and things of that nature. So this is what is meant by these woes. It's talking about world wars. Because while these world wars are being fought, there's a lot of commotion going on, and there's a lot of tumult because there's many nations gathered together fighting one against another, you know, shooting missiles, you know, shooting, you know, bazookas and trajectories from the tanks and all of that, you know. And this is what and this is the gathering or the amassing of this military, you know, around the world. But mainly the main part of this is taking place over there in the Middle East. Isaiah 13 and 4, the noise of a multitude in the mountains, like as of a great people, a tumultuous noise of the kingdoms of nations gathered together. The Lord of hosts mustereth the host of the battle. Why? Because the Lord is amassing these armies over there to fulfill his scriptures, to fulfill his prophecies, which is called what? Armageddon, which Armageddon means mountain of the troops, or the valley of Jehoshaphat. Jehoshaphat being Yahweh Shaphat, or Yahweh's judgment. Okay, so now let's go back. So it says that there's three woes. Now then we know that there have been more than three wars, you know, because there have been all kinds of wars. But there have been so far two major world wars in the history of the world. Those are the two major world wars, which is what? World War I and World War II. Now let's go to Revelation 9 and 12 again. It says, one woe is past. So the Apostle John saw this one woe past, this one world war. Now, when you read up above that, which the Elder Apostle Tahar, you know, we did a breakdown on this, which Elder Apostle Tahar pretty much broke it down. You know, we were there with him in the studio when he did it. And, we know we were reading from him and getting certain information from him off the web, you know, that in this, when we broken this down before, but this particular time when we broke it down, it was because of the former head of the Chicago camp, a guy by the name of Batak, that said that this is talking about actual locusts, and he tried to link it up with the book of Joel, the 1st chapter, I believe it was, and he said, and I ain't budging. So the spirit jumped on Elder Pastor. I said, okay, well, you could go then. And, you know, we went he actually went and put it all together and broke this down. And when you understand this, if the Spirit is working with you and you go into the secular history of World War One, you know that this is talking about actual World War One when you put all the pieces together and you understand the what's the word I'm looking for, the symbology, you know, of these meanings, because sometimes the scripture is straightforward and it means what it means physically, and sometimes it means what it means spiritually. And then this is one of the cases where it's dealing with spiritually. Pretty much this whole chapter is a spiritual chapter. So now when you jump down to the 12th verses, one woe is past, which is what? World War One. And behold, there come two woes more hereafter, which is two more world wars. This is why in Revelation 8 and 13, we read about woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth by reason of the three voices of the trumpet of the three angels which are yet to sound. And when you read into the 9th chapter, which we're about to get into, we're just going to jump to the point because, you know, in the interest of time, we're just going to jump to the point. In the 16th verse, we're going to jump into the Lord's army, but not the heavenly host, not the earthly host of carnal flesh of men, but the inanimate host, which are the missiles of Yahweh. This right here is, I believe, is either Isaiah 50 or 51. I don't know if it's gonna come up like this. Okay, it did. Jeremiah 50:25. The Lord hath opened his armory. What is an armory? A place where you have weapons. Let's go to it real quick. Armory. Awatazar. Awatazar. That sounds fierce. That's a good name for a brother. Awatazar. Wow, that's bad. It says treasure, storehouse, treasure, gold, silver, etc. Store, supplies of food or drink, treasure house, treasury, treasure house, storehouse, magazines, treasury, magazine of weapons, figuratively of the Most High's armory. But it is not figuratively, because it is actually physical. Because when you read in here, this is talking about an actual physical army of the Lord. It's not talking about something that is allegorical. Now the symbolism is allegorical, but it represents something. You know, it's parabolic talk or symbolic talk, but it actually represents actual a thing, you know. And before we read on, let's go to the book of Job, the 20th chapter and the 24th verse. This is dealing with what's going to chase the wicked. Lucifer, son of the morning, I'm going to chase you out of earth. You know, inside joke. You know, we was having fun at the at camp Saturday. But this is what's going to chase Lucifer out of the earth. Seriously, I mean, I'm saying it kind of in a joking manner, but it's serious, because this is going to be the judgment of Esau. And Esau, which is a so-called white man, those are the Luciferians of the earth. All right, which the word Lucifer is not a bad word. It just simply means light bearers. So the light bearers, the so-called Illuminati, the ones that have these goals and aspirations of establishing their agenda, which is the so-called New World Order, they're going to be chased out of earth by the weapons of the Lord's indignation, in the Most High's armory. It says, he shall flee from the iron weapon. When you read from the first verse down, it's speaking about the wicked. Now, what is this iron weapon that he's going to flee from? It's talking about the missiles. These are the iron weapons that the Lord made of him. And when you do the research, a lot of the missiles are made of what? Steel. So he said, well, that says iron, this says steel. Well, steel is a combination of iron and other things that were in it. I don't remember the specifics, but there is iron in steel. So he shall flee from the iron weapon. Why? Because they're using these missiles for what? For the purpose of scaring the world into a new world order. They don't really want to use it. I mean, they may want to use maybe one or two or a few places here and there just to scare the people enough to accept their one world government, one world order, which that's called pressure from above and pressure from below. And what's smack dab in the middle is what? The solution. to the people, which only benefits the international bankers. All right. So he shall flee from the iron weapon, and the bow of steel shall strike him through. So the bow of steel represents where the missile comes out of. And when you and you brothers that have time to do it, look on YouTube and or go on Google Images and type in a missile silos with missiles in them or missiles being shot out of it, and you'll see a lot of you'll see what the bow of steel is. Because what was the bow? The bow is where you put the arrow in to shoot the missile or the arrow from one point to the other. I mean, you could throw the arrow, but it's not going to be as effective as when you shoot it out of a bow. Same thing with the missiles. The missiles have to be shot out of a silo, whether it's a silo in the ground or whether it's an actual vehicle that carries a missile to shoot it out of, like those carriers of the missiles that they parade in these different parades of China and Russia, or a submarine. They have nuclear missiles in submarines. It says it is drawn and cometh out of the body. That's what the body is. The body is that bow, the nuclear silo. Yea, the glittering sword cometh out of his gall. Why does it call it a glittering sword? Because this glittering sword, when the missile is shot out of the body, there's fire all around it, and it goes through different stages of fire. And the Apostle John on the island of Patmos actually seen the different stages of the missiles from when they were shot out till they hit. And when he saw the missiles in the air, there were so many of them, he couldn't number them. That's why it says, and he heard. And matter of fact, we're going to get it. And we're going to come back to this. Revelation 9:16. And the number of the army of the horsemen, which is what? These missiles, because the horsemen is what? People that are coming to the battle. They're usually on horseback. They usually have all kind of armor. The horse has armor on it, and he's coming with speed and power. Well, that's what the missiles are like. So it says, and the number of the army of the horsemen were 200,000. Did he count them? No, it says, and I heard the number of them, because there was so many. He couldn't count all that fast, all those missiles. So he heard this number, and this is what the Lord told him to write down. Then it says, and thus I saw the horses in the vision, because he saw that power, because the horse represents power. So he saw the power of the missiles going through the air. And when you look at it, when you look at those missiles have power. They have so much power, and people are so afraid of them. If they see those missiles coming, they're going to shit in their pants, man. Some of them are going to drop dead of heart attacks because of the ferociousness of this military. Like during the Persian Empire, you had a group of mercenaries that were known as what? The Immortals. And they had people shook. Well, that man, you better don't piss Xerxes off, man, because if he sends the Immortals after your ass, that's your ass. Because the Immortals would come and they would take people out. You see? So that's how this but this is not even this army doesn't even have feelings. And they're saying that once they shoot these things off and the warhead is gone, really there's no way for them to control that. And that's why it hits where it hits. I mean, they try to get it approximate to a certain point, but it can only hit wherever it hits. This is why the Lord said he's going, once they shoot it off, he's going to take and guide those missiles exactly where he wants them to hit. Okay. So it says, and thus I saw the horses in the vision. You got to picture this. You got to picture the Apostle John looking up into the heavens and seeing all of these missiles flying with speed, with power, with fire, made out of iron, steel, and all that. He's seeing them flying out from one part of the world to the other. He's just watching it, right? It says, and them that sat on them, having breastplates of fire and of jacinth and of brimstones. Now, what is this talking about? The missiles. And that's another thing. I didn't get the other information I had. Salaki, brothers, I was just excited to get started, so I forgot to grab this other stuff that I had, but just bear with me and we'll get it. Just bear with me. Okay, I don't have it here. Okay, all right, all right. So let me just bear with me 1 second. Just bear with me. Okay, I got one so far. I think I need two more. Just bear with me. Wow. Bear with me 1 second, brother Salakia. I should have had this ready, but hopefully I can just find these real quick. Okay, beautiful. And if you can't wait, then hey, you know, they got booty shaking videos out there you could go watch. Okay. That's two down, two to go. And I can get the other ones out of here. I can get the other ones out of here. Just bear with me 1 second. All right, almost there. Boom. That's one. Damn it. What's the other one? Sense. There's sense. Here we go. All right, and we're gonna try to deal with these, you know, as best we can. So let's read that again. Revelation 9:17. And thus I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them, having breastplates of fire and of jacinth and brimstone. All right. So what does this represent? Well, I was doing a little research, and come to find out, just bear with me. I'm just pulling these over. Just pulling these over. All right. I was doing a little research, and it says, and I wanted to find out why the Apostle John saw this. It says, this is why objects burn when they re-enter the atmosphere. And that thought came into mind that when any object enters into, you know, back into the Earth's atmosphere, it's coming so fast and there's so much heat on it that it bursts into flames. And this is why they have to have a fire retardant or heat shields, what they call heat shields, on certain things so that they don't burn up, you know. And this is what the Apostle John saw. So it says, this is why objects burn when they re-enter the atmosphere. It says, if we lift off a person to the limit of space or beyond, what is the maximum altitude they could come back from without being burnt alive at re-entry? Originally appeared on Quora. All right, so now we're just going to jump down. So this is the same thing. It's not about altitude. It's about velocity. Objects that enter Earth's atmosphere burn not because they are falling from great height, but because they are traveling through the atmosphere at great speed. A returning spacecraft enters the atmosphere at about Mach 25. It's usually assumed that the mechanism of the heating in the reentry is by friction. An example, viscous drag in the atmosphere. This is the predominant mechanism only at lower altitudes. As air density increases, During the fastest and hottest part of the descent, something different happens. A re-entering vehicle develops a very energetic pressure wave at its leading surfaces. The energy density is sufficient to cause atmospheric molecules to dissociate and their component atoms to become ionized. The vehicle thus descends in a superheated shroud of incandescent plasma. So this is why this is exactly what the Apostle John saw when he saw the missiles re-entering back into the Earth's atmosphere. Because remember, they have a rocket, which is a boost system that boosted out of the silo, and it goes through phases. And each phase, once they get to a certain height, different parts of the booster rocket start to break away from the missile, which we're going to show you also. So when it gets to a certain point, it has to go up high and then come back down in an arching fashion, as Elder Pastor explained to you about the figs falling from a fig tree, right, as they fall in an arch fashion. So you have to remember that, what I was just talking about, a fig that arch. Yeah, but the point is that they were using that as an example of what they saw in the vision to explain how these missiles were falling, because back then there was no such thing as missile or ICBM. So they explained it in layman's terms with what they had around them and what they understood, about the time of the things that they were in their time. So it says incandescent plasma, right? So I looked up the word incandescent, and incandescent is emitting light as a result of being heated. So what did the Apostle John see? He saw the missiles coming back into the atmosphere, and the velocity that they were moving at caused the metal on that missile to burst into fire. That's how fast it was going. And this is why it's so important for them to have heating shields, to protect whatever they're trying to send from one part of the earth to the other. It says full of strong emotions, passionate, but the point is emitting light as a result of being heated. So you can read in here, right, which we'll read a little bit of this. This is incandescence. Incandescence is the emission of electromagnetic radiation, including visible light, from a hot body as a result of its temperature. The term derives from the Latin verb incandescere, to glow white. You see? So this is what happened. When that missile, which was made out of metal, re-entered the Earth's atmosphere, it was moving at such a velocity that it burst into flames. And that's what the Apostle John saw, and this is why he described it as these horses in the vision, or this power that came through. It says having breastplates of fire and of jacinth and brimstone. Now, when you look up the word jacinth, which we're going to look that up real quick, look up the word jacinth, and then we're going to go
Strong's G 5191, Huaquintinas.
Huaquintinas, hyacinth, of the color of hyacinth, of a red color bordering on black. Right? Now, let's look this up. Let's go to Google real quick. Images. Let's just go to jacinth because they're being very fresh. Jacinth. You see the color of jacinth? See how it's like a reddish, kind of blackish looking? All right. Now let's go to this one here. Now this is the reentry of a spacecraft that NASA created, like a space shuttle. Now watch what happens when this particular vehicle enters Earth's atmosphere.
Standing by for entry interface. Orion now at an altitude of 470,000 feet, 900 miles from its splashdown target. The guidance officer confirms that Orion has reached entry interface. The moment of truth for Orion for the next 9 minutes, 45 seconds.
Now you notice how it's on fire. This is the vehicle. And watch how hot it gets. And they call this this phase is blackout.
We have reached a loss of telemetry as we enter this brief blackout period. At the time of the blackout, the flight dynamics officer reported that all of Orion's systems looked perfect.
Now keep looking at it. Keep looking at how hot it gets.
This is the point in time where Orion would be experiencing its peak heating of some 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit as it barrels through the Earth's atmosphere.
You see how red it's getting?
Traveling.
And then you look at it, it's reddish, blackish. Well, that's Jacinth. We were just looking at. Where is it? Jacinth, see? So this is what the Apostle John saw on the island of Patmos. He saw the missiles re-entering the Earth's atmosphere, and he described them as Jacinth. The fire was so hot and so glowing, it looked like Jacinth. It was reddish and blackish. You got it. We got it right there.
20,000 miles an hour, some 84%.
Now this is dealing with a spacecraft, you know, probably one of those space shuttles. But the point is of the re-entry of this vehicle into Earth's atmosphere at such a high velocity that it's causing it to catch fire. And this is why they have to have heating shields. They even have that in cars. They have heating shields over the mufflers. They have heating shields over, around the engine, so it doesn't burn out certain components of the engine. You know. You see. So this is the set. Now it seems like it's starting to cool off.
Away from the jettison of the forward big cover at the very top of the spacecraft that will begin the chute deployment sequence.
Right, and I guess from what he's saying, it takes about 9 minutes for it to go through this phase, and this is dealing with a vehicle. Now, when you look at, damn, I missed one of them. All right. Well, I'll let y'all brothers see this one. This is an actual missile, a Russian ICBM re-entry vehicle impact on Kura range. I didn't get a chance to put any of these in the description box, so if brothers want, you may have to type it up, because like I said, the spirit was just on me to just get into the lesson. So I'm gonna play this while I try to find the other one. See the re-entry? Pay attention to this one. See how it's glowing? See it? It caught on fire. That's from the velocity. But that happens way up above, you know, when it first enters into the Earth's atmosphere. Now, this is another small example. This is North Korea. And this is at night. As you can see, the re-entry. So pretty much you get an idea. So that pretty much goes into that. And if I remember, I'll try to put some of these in the description box. What else did we have? We had that, we read that. Okay, now we read some of this. Now this is one I want to get to. Ballistic missile basics. It says a ballistic missile, BM, is a missile that has a ballistic trajectory of over most of its flight path, regardless of whether or not it is a weapon delivery vehicle. Ballistic missiles are categorized according to their range. The maximum distance measured along the surface of the Earth's ellipsoid from the point of launch of a ballistic missile to the point of impact of the last element of its payload, which the payload is what? The warhead or warheads. Various schemes are used by different countries to categorize the ranges of ballistic missiles. Just want to just hold on to this. Now, what are we going to do is we're going to jump down to this one here. Let me set that back up. Okay, ballistic missiles have a prescribed course that cannot be altered after the missile has burned its fuel. See, and this is why the Most High is gonna, his spirit is gonna be in the missiles, and he's gonna be the one that guides them to their target. Unless a warhead maneuvers independently of the missile, or some form of terminal guidance is provided, a pure ballistic trajectory limits the effectiveness of a chemical or biological attack, because generally the re-entry speed is so high that it is difficult to distribute the agent in a diffuse cloud or with sufficient precision to ensure a release under the shear layer of the atmosphere. In addition, thermal heating upon re-entry or during release may degrade the quality of the chemical or biological agent. U.S. experience has shown that often less than 5% of a chemical or biological agent remains potent after flight and release from a ballistic missile without appropriate heat shielding. So that's why these missiles have to have heat shielding. And this is why when they come back into the Earth's atmosphere, they don't blow up, from that velocity and from that fire that engulfs the metal. Why? Because it has a heat shield that protects the payload, which is what? The warhead. Now jumping down, it says, let's see. I'll just read this one. Ablation cooling, or simple ablation, is a process in which heat energy is absorbed by a material, the heat shield, through melting, vaporization, and thermal decomposition, and then dissipated as the material vaporizes or erodes. In addition, high surface temperatures are reached and heat is dissipated by surface radiation. And it goes on to say some more stuff. So pretty much this is why they have a heat shield, because upon re-entry, this metal catches fire, as we saw the actual this actual space shuttle or spacecraft from NASA burst into flames as it was in descent in the re-entry of the Earth's atmosphere. And this was the best example I could find, to accentuate what it meant by, in Revelation the 9th chapter, by and thus I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them having breastplates of fire and of jacinth and brimstone. Okay, and the heads of the horses were as the heads of lions, because the lion's paw is terrible, but the lion's head is the most vicious. And out of their mouths issued fire and smoke and brimstone, which those are the nuclear missile warheads. It says, by these three was the third part of men killed, by the fire and by the smoke and by the brimstone, right? Because there's going to be so much smoke and radiation and fire that if the fire doesn't get you, the radiation will get you. If the radiation will get you, the smoke will suffocate you, and you'll die the death of the people that were alive during the eruption of Mount Vesuvius. Mount Vesuvius was a mountain that erupted, and in ancient Rome, and the lava wasn't what killed the people. What killed the people was asphyxiation, because the smoke and stuff was so thick that they died of asphyxiation. It says, which issued out of their mouths, because the strongest part of these nuclear missiles is their mouth and their tail. The mouth is the nuclear warhead, and the tail is the fire that brings it from one point of the earth to the other. It says, for their power is in their mouth, which is the warheads, and in their tails. See, and their tails send them from one part to the other, and that's why you have those boost systems that break off every so often, because after a certain time, the fuel that's in that first one dies out, and it's just nothing but dead weight. So they use a mechanism that detaches what's not needed anymore, and then you see the next phase of the rocket shoot out the fire to keep pushing it where it needs to go, and it goes through different phases, you know, all the way into the reentry, which is just a warhead that reenters in most cases. For their power is in their mouth and in their tail. See, for their tails were like unto serpents, and had heads, and with them they do hurt. So the main part of the hurting is the heads, but the power is also in the tail, because the tail moves it from one place to the other. And a snake, you know, when it slithers, you sometimes you see a missile flying, and it'll leave like the plume behind it. It'll leave like if it was a snake, you know, crawling on the dirt. All right, and then it goes on to say more, but I'm gonna get a couple other precepts, and I'll finish out this lesson. So Isaiah 9:5, it says, for every battle of the warriors with confused noise and garments rolled in blood, but this shall be with burning and fuel of fire. So this last war that's going to be fought is going to be with burning and fuel of fire. And this is why when the kingdom is established with the real Israelites, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, then there will be no more war, because all of the weapons of Esau will be burnt up. Because there's not going to be one missile left of those ICBM missiles that's not going to be shot out. The Lord's going to cause all of them. It says spare no arrows. Matter of fact, let me get that real quick. There's still more on that, so I don't want to lose that. Okay. What is that? Jeremiah 50 or Jeremiah 51? Let's see. Let me see something. Right, beautiful. Jeremiah 50 verse 14. Put yourselves in array against Babylon, America, Babylon the Great, round about. All ye that bend the bow, that have those nuclear silos, shoot at her. Spare no arrows, for she has sinned against the Lord Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. And this is why the Lord calls it his indignation, which is righteous anger. You know, and this is how he's going to take out his anger out on America. Let's go from there to the book of Psalms, Babylon the Great, 75 and 8. It says, for in the hand of the Lord there is a cup, and the wine is red. It is full of mixture, and he poureth out of the same. So this is the Lord's fury. But the dregs thereof, all the wicked of the earth shall wring them out and drink them. And this is why the Lord is going to use the nuclear missiles along with the fire from the chariots to destroy this place, because that's going to be the anger of the Lord. This is why the scriptures say that the Lord is a consuming fire. He's nothing but pure energy, you know, and he's going to tear Esau's ass up. There was another one, I'm trying to think, in the book of Revelation that goes with this. Okay. Revelation chapter 14. And this is why if you take that mark of the beast, guess what? You have a date, you know, to be barbecued in the lake of fire. Revelation 14 and 8. And there followed another angel saying, Babylon is fallen, that great city. Nothing else in the world on this earth compares to a great city like America. This is not talking about the Vatican, okay? Because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornications, and all nations are taking on the customs of America. This is why you have McDonald's in China and in different other places around the world, you know, because they're all partaking of America and her folly. And the whole world is going to be at the point they're going to be forced to take this microchip, which is the mark of the beast. And the third angel followed me, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of the Most High, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation. And he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb, because Yahushua said, I am come to send fire on earth. And what will I if it be already kindled? So Yahushua is coming to bring more fire. It says, and the smoke of their torment is sended up forever and ever. Why? Because it's going to burn for a long time. America is going to burn for a long time. And they have no rest day nor night who worship the beast and his image. Because when you get involved with, and you sell out to Esau, guess what? You got to do things. And a lot of times it's going to be things that may be unpleasant. But you're going to have to stay constantly involved, constantly doing things, proving yourself to get to the next level. And whosoever receiveth the mark of his name. So you're going to die in this lake of fire, which is the nuclear missiles once they hit ground zero, and the lasers from the chariots wherever they hit and bring more fire. And the Apostle John was looking down from the chariots, looking down upon America, and he saw it like as it was a great lake of fire. All right. So now what else do we have? I'm gonna read this one here because this is a good one. This is I'm gonna just go straight to the point. 2 Peter 3:6, whereby the world that then was, being overflowed with water, perished. And this is why the Most High created what? The rainbow, as a covenant that he would not destroy the earth ever again by water. And what did these assholes do? They took it and made it a homosexual symbol. So the Most High is going to get them for that, man. He's going to have hot missiles for their ass. You like to have shit shoved up your ass? Well, guess what? You're going to have a hot missile shoved up your ass. It says, but the heavens and the earth, which are now. So what heavens is this talking about? This is talking about Esau's rulership and the rulerships of all these different nations, Esau being the top of that. And the heavens and the earth, which are now, by the same word, are kept in store, because America has been in storage. Esau's empire has been in storage. That's why really nothing major really has happened. It's because it's in storage, reserved, right? It says reserved. They have a reservation. When you go to a restaurant, how many of you brothers been to restaurants and you actually went to a restaurant and you saw a little section that was reserved for somebody because they call, I need a reservation, so on and so forth, and a party of 7, boom. And they'll have that section of the restaurant with those tables and plates and cups and all that reserved for that party. Well, guess what? The earth has been reserved for the party of who? The missiles. When they come in to do their thing, man. It says reserved unto fire against the day of judgment and perdition of ungodly men. So this so-called white man's kingdom, which are the Edomites, is reserved for what? For fire and brimstone, which is going to come from what? From those missiles, nuclear missiles, and from the chariots, that concentrated heat, which they call lasers from the chariots. All right, let's see what else we have. You brothers can read this, at your leisure. Joel, the 2nd chapter, this goes into the army of the Lord, the weapons of the Lord's indignation. So we're going to go back to, and you brothers can read Isaiah 2 also. If we get a moment, I'll read it. But I just want to go back to Revelation 9. And matter of fact, no, let's go back to Job 20 and 24. He shall flee from the iron weapon. Matter of fact, let me bring this up here so we can read that. Make that the last precept, Lord, as well. Job 20:24. He shall flee from the iron weapon. And we read about the iron weapon is what? That's dealing with Esau's technology. And we looked up the word weapon. All right. So this is dealing with the technology of the nuclear missile, which the Most High gave to these scientists, which are the Smiths, the modern day Smiths that are making these different instruments of war. And the bow of steel shall strike him through, because this is what's going to bring your demise. And they know it. This is why they had Planet of the Apes. And the Planet of the Apes is what? That they had something called the Forbidden Zone, which was who? America. So these devils knew from way back then about this. This is nothing new. You know, this is nothing new. And then in the second one, because the first one was the Planet of the Apes, the second one was beneath the Planet of the Apes, and you had these people that were communicating telepathically through the mind. And what were they worshiping? They were worshiping a missile, and that missile was had Greek writing on it, Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, because that's what's going to bring your total demise. Yahweh Shai is coming with the angels, and those missiles are going to be when that technology was given to you to create those missiles, that was the beginning of your end. That was going to bring about your end. You used it as a bully tactic to scare the people of the world, but guess what? The Lord is going to use it against you. Damn devils. It says, Slacker, little tea I was drinking, little bitter. It is drawn and cometh out of the body. Yea, the glittering sword cometh out of his gall. Terrors are upon him. Why? Because when these missiles are shot, people are going to be shitting on themselves. You know, men's hearts failing them for fear, for looking upon those things which are coming upon the earth. And they showed this back in 1983 when they had this movie called The Day After. And in that movie, when that movie aired, everybody watched that movie. And guess what? That night, everybody was shitting in their pants. You know, and for a little while, people were down and out, depressed. And that was just a movie that didn't even show the full disaster of a nuclear missile. It just showed a little bit, and people were shitting in their pants. So terrors are going to be upon these people. Isaiah the 13th chapter goes into this also. All darkness shall be hidden in secret places, meaning what? What is the darkness? These are Esau's secrets. And what does it mean it's going to be hidden in secret places? In these different bunkers, wherever they're at, their new world order is going to die there. A fire not blown shall consume him. See? So a fire not blown shall consume him. So you're not going to have to start the fire, because the fire is coming by way of those nuclear warheads. It shall go ill with him that is left in his tabernacle. So anyone that's here on the soils of America is doomed and destined to burn. The heavens shall reveal his iniquity, and that's what's happening. And the earth shall rise up against him, and the earth is rising up against this devil. Why? Because he takes and takes and takes and takes until he destroys. And there's nothing else left. So the earth has to revolt. Even the earth is revolting against this devil. Salaki, brothers. And this is why you have whales beaching out, beaching themselves on land, because there's so much pollution and corrosion in those seas. This is why the insects are dying, because there's so much pollution and corrosion on the earth. The trees are dying. So if this devil was allowed to continue, he would destroy himself and everybody on the planet. So how in the fuck can the Most High and the Son be so-called white people, when the so-called white man is the one that's committing all these atrocities upon the earth, and they got leprosy? The increase of his house shall depart. Why? Because it's going to be transferred unto us, and his goods shall flow away in the day of his wrath, because all those goodies that he had are going to be gone. What did the scriptures say? I mean, what the scriptures don't say, but what is the old adage or the old saying? Spoils belong to the victor. Yahweh Shai says he's going to be King of Kings and Lord of Lords. So all this wealth is going to be transferred to Yahweh Shai, and we're joint heirs with him. So we're going to get a piece of the pie also. This is a portion of a wicked man from the Most High, and the heritage appointed unto him by the Most High. So this is your end. This is your latter end. This is your doom. So back in Revelation 9 and 20, and the rest of the men which were not killed by these plagues, because there's going to be survivors on the earth that are not in America. No survivors in America. Other places of the earth, there will be survivors, because the missiles are going to hit and destroy the land of Israel, destroy the land of America, and they may hit in a few other places, that might do little devastation here and there, but the people overall are going to survive. Why? Because they're not going to be, so the ones that are not in America or in the land of Israel, a lot of them will survive if they don't get hit with buildings falling on them or or missiles from planes or whatever, you know, or get killed in these wars. Yet repented not of the works of their hands. So let me read that again. And the rest of the men which were not killed by these plagues, yet repented not of the works of their hands, that they should not worship devils and idols of gold, and silver, and brass, and stone, and of wood, which neither can see, nor hear, nor walk. Neither repented they of their murders, nor of their sorceries, nor of their fornication, nor of their thefts. So no matter what, this devil is not going to repent. These nations are not going to repent because they are nothing but heathens. And you have Israelites out there that are not going to repent, even after they see all this stuff. See? So now the last precept I'll leave you with is Isaiah 2:1. The word that Isaiah, the son of Amos, saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem, both kingdoms, because both kingdoms are being brought together today. The southern kingdom, Judah, Benjamin, Levi, and the northern kingdom, Ephraim, and the rest of the other tribes, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians. It says, and it shall come to pass in the last days, which we're at, and there's an amassing coming back together, a great awakening of all the tribes coming back together. This is why you have a 12-tribe sign showing all the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. It says that the mountain, and it shall come to pass in the last days that the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established in the top of the mountains. So once this place is destroyed, when the Lord's is, because right now the Lord is setting us up, but we're not in our land yet. We're not set up yet. It says, and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow into it. So we're going to be exalted above all these different nations, and they're all going to come flowing to Jerusalem. Right now, people are trying to get the hell away from them gutter rats, because them gutter rats are destroying everything, because they are the chief house of the wicked. The Amalekites, the Edomites. You have the Edomites, then you have the Amalekites, which are also Edomites, but that is the chief house of the wicked. It says, and many people shall go and say, come ye, and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the power of Jacob, and he will teach of his ways. They ain't trying to go over there to the land of Israel. The only reason why they're going over there is because they're going over there to live a debaucherous life, to go to them different parades out there, them homosexual parades, you know, and to do all abominable filth over there. That's the only reason why they're going over there. Those are not the ways of the Lord. Those are not the ways of the Lord. When we read the scriptures in the Lord, that the Lord condemns all of that. So the nations are not going to learn from these gutter rats the righteousness of the Lord. They're going over there to learn the wickedness of them gutter rats. And we will walk in his paths, for out of Zion shall go forth the law. Not the goddamn Talmud or that other bullshit that they got going on over there. The law and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. The word of the Lord is the Bible. Not that other crap, that debaucherous crap that they're pushing over there. And he shall judge among the nations and shall rebuke many people, because all these nations are going to be rebuked. Why? Because they put their hands on us. They're going to get rebuked, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares. What is a sword? A sword is an instrument of war. So they beat their swords into plowshares. And what is a plowshare? A plowshare is an instrument for agriculture. So they're going to take their weapons of war and turn them into agricultural instruments. And their spears into pruning hooks, same thing. Nation shall not lift sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. Why? Because this third world war, woe, is going to be the final war to end all wars. Then everything will go back to normal. And there will never, ever be any more missiles or any type of guns or none of that bullshit. Unless, the Lord allows some kind of a museum, as they had in, what was that, Demolition Man. They had a museum with different guns in it, which I doubt that's going to happen, because the scriptures say, I'm being a little funny with it, but the scriptures say in the book of Ezekiel, let's go to Ezekiel, as High Priest Ariel used to say it, Ezekiel 39:7. I'm sorry, no. And 39 and 8. Behold, it is come and it is done, saith the Lord power. This is the day whereof I have spoken, meaning the annihilation of Esau. And they that dwell in the cities of Israel shall go forth and shall set on fire and burn the weapons. See, so whatever weapons are left, tanks and planes and helicopters and artillery and munitions and all that, it says they're going to be burnt with fire. And they ain't talking about no regular fire. It's talking about it's talking about nuclear. It's talking about spiritual fire. Both the shields and the bucklers, the bows and the arrows, and the handstaves and the spears, and they shall burn them with fire 7 years, meaning a complete amount of time, so that they shall take no wood out of the field, neither cut down any of the out of the forest, because it's not going to be a bonfire that you set up and you got to get your twigs and your dry bush and your trees and all that to add to the fire. It says, for they shall burn the weapons with fire. What kind of fire is that talking about? That's talking about spiritual fire, where you can cause fire to come out of your hands, or just cause fire to come down from heaven, as the prophet Elijah did. And they shall spoil those that spoiled them and rob those that robbed them, said the Lord Yahweh Shem Yahushua. And that's when that's going to happen, not prior to that, when we're set back up in our kingdom. So this will be a great thing to look forward to. So, you know, like I said, I was listening to Joel, the 2nd chapter, which I wanted to hit it, but you know, we've gone over that before. But the main part of this that I wanted to accentuate through the spirit, isolate, was the breastplates of fire and of jacinth and brimstone, which we showed you was the missiles. When they, upon re-entry, the velocity is so fast that that metal catches on fire. And when the apostle John saw it, he described it as breastplates of fire and jacinth and brimstone. And we showed you in the shuttle, upon re-entry, what happens when a shuttle re-enters.
Miles from its splashdown target.
That's the actual shuttle.
The guidance officer confirms that Orion has reached entry interface. The moment of truth for Orion for the next 9 minutes, 45 seconds.
See how it's catching on fire? And watch the hotter it gets. Watch when he says when it reaches its peak of heat, over 4,000 degrees or something like that, he said. Watch how red it gets.
As expected, we have reached a loss of telemetry as we enter this brief blackout period.
Why? Because why was it a brief blackout period? Because they couldn't see out of there, and the fire was so strong around it that there was no ability to communicate.
At the time of the blackout, the flight dynamics officer reported that all of Orion's systems looked perfect.
See how it keeps growing redder and redder, hotter and hotter?
This is the point in time where Orion would be experiencing its peak heating.
Peak heating. The red is so hot, it almost looks burgundy. And then you see like a little bit of black hair, and then you see whiteness in it from the heat. And the Apostle John compared it to jacinth. And when you look up jacinth, a jacinth is a stone that is red, similar to this red, with black in it. And this is what the Apostle John saw. He saw that's why he described it as jacinth. Almost like they had breastplates this color. But what it was the metal that was on the missile that burst into flames, into fire. You know? So like I said, Lord's will, I'm going to try to put these in the description box. And with that, I pray that you brothers have been edified. Till the next time I say shalom.